That's just me pretend typing like I'm making you a reservation for a, I don't know, flight somewhere. So I thought I'd come on here and talk about my biggest loss and my biggest recovery. This has been a crazy month. Today is the last day of the month, and my P&L is on the screen. I'm up $22,000 today. Yesterday, I was up $207,000. I had an amazing trade on GameStop, and I'm going to be finishing the month up, let's see, in gross profit on the month of February. I was at $394,000 coming into today. So a little over $400,000 in gross profit. And that's from being down $300,000 at the end of the first week of the month here in February. The first week of the new month, and I lost $300,000. It's the biggest loss I've ever had. I had the biggest single trade loss I've ever had, which was on, you can see here, $240,000 loss on CPSH. It was brutal. I bought right into this. We had a halt down, then it ripped back up, and I got in with huge size for the squeeze through 30, halted back down, and got out way down here at the volume weighted average price. I lost $4 a share. No, let's see. I was in at 29. I lost $6 a share on 40,000 shares. $240,000. It was brutal. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because that loss was a failure in mindset, not a failure in strategy. It was a failure in my mindset. So what happened for me, and I think that this is super relevant for a lot of you guys out there, a lot of beginner traders out there who have had some huge losses, whether it was on GameStop or it was on any other stock, it doesn't really matter. If you've ever had a huge loss, if you've had a huge loss today, this week, this month, and you are still struggling, this video is for you. So what happened to me, to sort of set some context around this, and what I would encourage, I'm actually gonna have a gummy bear. So there's actually some science that little red gummy bears like this actually help you think better. Yellow gummy bears like this help you trade better. And green ones like this help you sleep better. So put these away. So this is what happened. This is the story of the worst month of my career, which became actually a great month. So how did it start? Well, to set the stage, we began in January. Go back here. First 2 weeks of the new year, I lost $150,000. $150,000 gone in the first 2 weeks. That was the worst start to a new year that I have ever had. I'll go split main screen here. So basically, they're so chewy. Hang on. All right. They're really chewy. That's what they say. And that's what they don't tell you about gummy bears. They're so chewy. All right. 3 was too many. Okay. So what happened in the beginning of January, it was the worst start to a year that I've ever had. I have gone red before at the beginning of a new year, and it's always disappointing when that happens, but it has happened before. It actually happened last year. Last year, I started the year in the red. I was red January. I usually will allocate, I'll go back to split screen since I'm talking more than showing anything. So I usually allocate 2 months a year to be red. If I have 2 red months a year, I'm really okay with that. That's not outside the norm for me. It's not really a problem. I can have 2 red months like I did last year and still be up $5 million. Oops, I've got my echo coming through. So, it's just not great to start the year red. And so that happened last year, and then February was good. March was a struggle again, and then April, May, June, things really started to pick up. So this month, or in January, what happened was, first day of the new month, I'm up 24,000. Second day of the new month, I'm down 24,000. Third day, I'm up 19. Fourth day, I'm down 38,000. Fifth day, I'm down 25,000. So 2 back-to-back red days, and those are both pretty big red days. 38,000 and 25,000. So now I'm red on the year for sure. I bounced back 31,000 on Monday the 11th, and you can see there on the main screen if you want to see it a little bit better. And then on Tuesday the 12th, I lose $60,000. Wednesday the 13th, I make 10 grand. And then basically after those 2 red days, in the first 10 days of the new year, 6 of those days were red, and I was down 150 grand. I'm going to open this into a new tab here. So we'll just go right here like that. Oops, sorry. So this was my first 2 weeks of the year. Now I'm setting the stage here for you because this is what affected my mindset, and this is what then led to the huge mistake that I had, of course, going into February. So right here I'm down $126,000 on the year. All right, so I'm down 126 right there. We go into the second week, and what I decided to do here, I had some sessions with Ted. For those that don't know, Warrior Pro students, you guys know this, but Ted runs our trading psychology program here at Warrior Trading. So when I got married the first time, I was in my 20s, and before, I don't remember when I started seeing Ted, but it was right around then. And, I was having problems with my relationship, and I was trying to learn how to trade. I was broke. I was not making money. I was struggling. My relationship there was a lot of stress there. There was a lot of pressure on me to make money so we could, live a nicer life. And I started seeing Ted, who's does this type of stuff for a living up in Vermont. And pretty quickly, the conversation shifted from my marriage, which was really struggling due to just inherent foundational, fundamental differences in what we wanted in life. And so I think probably within a few sessions, he probably knew that we were going to get divorced. And so the conversation then switched really to this trading, because so many days I would come in at 1 o'clock or whatever it was. I think it was 1 o'clock on Friday that I would see him. And I would go in and I would say, Ted, he'd say, how was your day? And I'd be like, well, I just lost $5,000 today and it's Friday. I'm pissed. I feel terrible. And he'd be like, all right, well, let's talk about it. And so trading became basically the topic each week. And, anyways, so I've been working with Ted now for 10 years, and he has seen me go through so many ups and downs. So at the beginning of January, I set up a session with Ted. Warrior Pro students, Ted does sessions for you guys on Mondays and on Fridays. But anyway, so I had a session with Ted, and I was like, all right, I'm getting really stressed out here. I'm feeling a lot of pressure. I had a great year last year, but just a quarterback, Tom Brady, not to compare myself to Tom Brady, but I will, I guess. You're only as good as your last season. So, you had a great year last year. Now you gotta start over. And having such a fantastic year the previous year for me sets the bar really high. And I came out of the gate swinging, and then now I'm down $150,000 or whatever it is in the first 2 weeks of the year. I'm down, more than, if I made 150,000 in 1 year and just was done, to me, that's not really, I guess, a ton of money right now today. But all things considered, that's still being green, that's still being profitable. So the second I went red on the year, I started feeling like, oh my God, this is crazy. I need to get back to green. I can't be red on the year. This is unacceptable. And he was like, Russ, let's sit down for a second. Let's talk about this. This is your emotion. Because now you're starting to get desperate. You're getting this desperation that you need to make money, that I need to hit winners. And I need to make it by the end of this month because I can't finish this month red. He said, well, what if you finish this month red? What does that really mean? And I was like, it means I post my broker statements. It's the broker statements are going to be red. It's embarrassing. People are going to think what am I doing? I'm an idiot. He's like, well, okay. While I may not agree with that. This is Ted's voice. I may not agree with that. If that is true in a very small, narrow view of 1 month, what's also true? And, bigger picture, what's also true is, I did have a good year last year. What's also true is that what's probably more important than me grasping at straws to try to hit a big home run is to just focus on being a really good teacher every single day, being a really good educator for all of my students. So let's focus not on the number, let's focus on taking good trades. And so for the rest of January, I took a piece of tape and I stuck it over my P&L, and I didn't look at how much I was up on the day. I didn't look at my profit. And I did it just for the rest of this week. Ted said, can you do it for 4 days? For 4 days, can you trade without looking at your profits? Just literally trade just for the sake of taking good trades, and the profit will be whatever it is. If you're green, you're green. If you're red, you're red. And I was like, I can't do that. What if how do I know when to stop? What if I'm up a lot? Is that the time I should be more aggressive? Or what if I'm down? How do I know when to stop? And he's like, you're going to know just by the fact that you've taken a couple trades that were losers and you're starting to feel frustrated. Stop trading. You don't need to know how much you're down. You'll know you've had a couple losses. And so I did it. And I ended up, what that effectively did for me, by not looking at my P&L for 4 days, just 4 days, it brought the emotions back down. Because I was really emotionally charged back here on this Monday. I took 55 trades, not looking at my P&L. I was still emotionally charged. And then the next day was a little better. The next day was even better. And then the next day was better as well. So after 4 days, I was like, okay, I know I've had 4 green days in a row. I think at the end of the day, or when I was doing my recap, I was checking my P&L. But I wasn't looking at it while I was trading. And then the following week, I continued to do well, Monday and Tuesday. And then into Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, GameStop. It was actually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I got up at 4 a.m. on Wednesday. I got up at 4 a.m. again on Thursday, and I got up at 4 a.m. on Friday to trade that pre-market action. And at that point, I was firing on all cylinders. I was really in the zone, and I traded really well. Although on this Friday, I was down about $80,000 pre-market before I made back those losses, which was not great. I finished the day green, but that was sort of a caution flag. Going into the first day of the new month, February, I unfortunately, let's see. So there's the first day of the new month. So the first day of the new month, I started the day up $80,000. For those of you that recall, I had a couple of awesome trades, early pre-market and into the open. Actually, no, not even pre-market, just into the open. I did really well. And then in one trade, and I don't remember which stock it was now, but in one trade, I lost 50 grand. And I went from having this feeling of, I'm up 80,000 on the day. This is an amazing start to the new month, to, oh my God, I'm up only 20. And it felt bad. It felt bad. I was upset. I was frustrated, and I knew that I should stop trading. I knew that I should just walk away, but I was so frustrated I didn't. And so around, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock, I took a couple trades and I lost and was up only 15. Took another and was up 21. Took another and was break even on the day. I take a couple more trades and now I'm red 20,000. And now I'm livid. I'm furious. I just went from being up 80,000 on the day to down 20,000 on the day. GameStop is selling off after hours. I'm sitting on my laptop. I'm not in my office. I'm over at the house. And I see it down in this area. This is where I was in my trades. And it broke through, I want to say $200. I think it was $200 a share. Or maybe it was $100 a share. I can't remember. Anyways, it broke through this critical level. I tried to do a dip trade for a reversal. And instead of buying 250 shares, I bought 2,500. Then I doubled to 5,000, thinking I had only 500. Then I looked, I was down $10 a share. I was down 50 grand with 5,000 shares. And I said, I was like, are you kidding me right now? That means I'm down like $75,000 on the day. And so I hadn't intended on taking 5,000 shares after hours at 5 o'clock, but you know, it happened by accident. And so once I was in the trade, I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to trade my way out of this. Added another 2,500 shares, had 7,500 shares, and lost over $100,000 on that trade. Finished the day down 94 grand. Biggest red day of my career. First day of the new month. I was pissed. First day of the new month. 100 grand. Biggest red day of my career. So that was 5 o'clock. That was like late kind of when it happened. The next day I traded a lot, but only made 13,000. This was not a great day for me. I was spinning my wheels and I was so frustrated. The next day I was up 32,000. That was a little bit better. The next day, February 4th, my birthday. And on my birthday, I took a couple trades and I was up about $20,000. Right there, I was up 20 grand. 27,000, I think. And then in one trade, I went here from up 27, and I'll zoom this in so you can see it a little bit better. So right here, I went from up 27 on that dip right there. I was up only half, so I was up like 13. And then I took a loss and I lost 30 grand and I was down now about 25,000 on the day. And at that point, I was furious. Again, I was so angry. I was so furious. I was like, now I'm back to basically giving back what I had just made in the last 2 green days. And it was my birthday and I really wanted to finish the day green. And so what I did in that moment right here was I jumped into 2 stocks at the same time. One stock starts popping up, I jumped into it. Another stock starts popping up, I jumped into that too. I jumped into 2 at the same time. And I jumped in with full size. I used all of my buying power. I was basically full emotion. And again, that is not my that's not the rules of my strategy. That's me now going completely off the rails of following the rules of my strategy. Now, at this point, I'm just trading my emotion. I'm just trading my P&L. I'm trading it's my birthday and I want to be green. And so at that point, I had, I think it was 40,000 shares on the one stock, CPSH. And on the other one, I think I had, 25,000 shares or something like that. I don't remember. But I had full size on both positions. And I was looking at the 2 rows sort of right here. And well, let me close this. I was looking at these 2 rows here where on this side, it shows me my position. And so I crossed the 2 stocks, basically. I was looking at the level 2 for one stock, and I was looking at the position for the other. And so as I was pressing the buy button, the position wasn't changing. And I was like, what's happening? Why are my buy orders not getting filled? And I was so emotionally hijacked that I didn't realize the position I was looking at was the other symbol. And so I bought 40,000 shares of CPSH without realizing I had bought that many. And then it didn't halt going up. And where was this? It didn't halt going up. And in fact, it halted going down. And I lost 6 points on 40,000 shares, and it was the biggest loss I've ever had. I didn't even realize how many shares I had. So in that moment, I was completely emotionally hijacked. And I think the value in it, I guess, happening to me is that I've been able to articulate what happened after the fact and share it with you. And I hope that it can be a reminder to you that it can happen to anyone. And maybe it's happened to you and you know exactly what I'm feeling and what I'm saying. And I want you to know that you're not alone, that this is something that I know the pain of as well. And it's very frustrating. It's very upsetting. And so I finished that day down over $270,000 or $268,000, whatever it was. So at that point, having, of course, just had the big loss the day before or 2 days before on that Monday, now this is where I'm sitting. I lost 94,000, then I made back 40,000, then I lost 268 grand. So as of that moment right there, this was my P&L. I was up 550,000 on the year. All right, so life is still good, I suppose. But I had gone from up 866 to 550. And so my drawdown was showing down $316,000 on the month. $316,000 on the month, gross profit. That's the biggest red month. My biggest red month right now is, I believe it was last year in November. So let's go to November of last year. Let's see, 11/31/2020. So November last year, I finished down, no, it wouldn't have been, no, maybe it was October, or I don't know. Anyways, I guess it doesn't really matter. But I think my biggest red month is around $30,000. So to be down 300 grand is horrible. And so at that point, you know, I sort of felt like what I had been doing to try to recover the losses in the previous couple days didn't work. You know, I recovered it, but I was still so emotionally fueled that I went right back into the hole here. And on Friday, on this day, I don't remember. I think I was red, and then I recovered and finished green, and then here I was red, then green, then green, then red, then green. So by the end of this week, it was still really raw. I was like, man, you've recovered a little, but this has been so bad. And so again, you know, sessions with Ted each week during this streak, this red streak, and we were talking a lot about whether or not, well, two things. Number one, you know, for me, trading this last year has become more stressful because I've been trading with larger share size. And so the losses have gotten bigger. And so the bigger losses has, of course, created more stress. Now, you know, those losses come with the territory of trading with bigger size. And I've also had bigger winners in the last year. So one question was, does it make sense for me to reduce the emotions by going back down to small size? And I was initially really hesitant to do that because I felt that, you know, if I go to small size after losing 300 grand, it's going to take me, you know, it's going to take me a year to make that back. I'm going to have to sit here for a year thinking about being down this much. So my feeling was I have to actually increase my size. I've got to trade with bigger size, at least until I make back those losses. And I was able to acknowledge that that was going to only fuel a continued downward spiral. And so what I started doing this week, and which I was better at in the following week, was what I recognized on some of these days was that in the first 2 trades, I was hitting my max loss. What day was it? I think it was in this Thursday. First 2 trades, I was down 30,000 on the day. And I was like, okay, I am coming in swinging way too hard. I need to start the day with smaller size. So kind of my happy medium was, let's start the day with smaller size and get green. And then as soon as I cross over $10,000, I'm going to reduce my share size. As soon as I cross over 20,000, I'll reduce my share size again. And then as soon as I cross over, 30, 40, 50,000, I'll keep reducing my share size. That way, I don't put myself at risk. And thank you, Donald, for sending this. I'm not going to put myself at the risk of, big winner with 20,000, bigger winner with 40,000, bigger winner with 60,000, and then huge loss with 80,000 shares. Because those types of days are horrible, where you're, green, 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 and then one loser give it all back. And so what I decided to do was use that scaling strategy, which is different from what I've done before. So what it actually ended up meaning was that on my first trades, I'll just make it closer. So on my first trades with maybe 6,000 shares, 30 cents, I'd make like $1,800. And then on my second trade with 9,000 shares, maybe I'd make like 3,000. And then on my third trade with 16,000 shares, maybe I'd have a bigger winner, but now I've got a cushion. And then once I cross over 10,000, now I'm reducing my size. And what it ended up was at the top, I would sort of have smaller winners and then sometimes a loss, but I wasn't going like this and giving back like half the gains or almost all of the gains. And so that made a huge difference for me, because I just realized that what was happening was that when in one trade, I was giving back my whole day, which, let's look back, what was the trigger on this Monday? The trigger on that Monday was in one trade right there, giving back more than half of my gains. What was the trigger on this Thursday? Thursday the 4th. The trigger was in one trade, giving back half of my gains. So how can I stop myself from giving back half of my gains? And it was by reducing my share size as I went further into the day. Now, it's true that starting with smaller size, if your first trade ends up being awesome and it's the best trade of the day, you're not fully maximizing on it. But the fact is, from that starting point each day, we all start at 0. So we all start right there at 0, and it's that first trade where you have the max exposure to potentially hit your max loss in one trade. And so since you don't want to do that, your first trade, I was choosing to trade with smaller size. So if I did go red, I would only lose a couple thousand, 2,000, 3,000. And then I could keep trading with that same small size, and that would afford me more like 3 losers in a row before I was even down 10 grand. And now, it's certainly possible for me to have 3 losers in a row, but it's not that common, all things considered. So in this case, I have, 1, 2, 3 losers in a row worth of space. Then as I start to move back up, if I can get to green, then that's great. If I can get up to my daily goal, then I can start to, as I get towards my daily goal and I start to get a profit cushion on the day, I can start to increase my share size. So that for me has been one of the techniques I used. So, a couple of the techniques, I'll just kind of write them down here. So number 1, hiding my P&L. So that was the first technique that I used to help reduce the emotions. I will say that it does feel like a pilot flying blind. It feels really hard to not know my altitude. Not flying blind, but to not know my altitude, because if I don't know how much I'm up, I don't know whether or not I should start to reduce my share size. I don't know whether or not I have a cushion. If on a day where I'm doing really, really well, then I'm going to try to be a little more aggressive. I'm going to try to put the pedal to the metal because I'm doing well. So the altitude or the P&L on the day is an important metric, but when emotions are really heightened, hiding it can bring them back down. Then the second strategy that I used to bring myself back into a more even-keeled mindset, recognizing that mindset was my biggest problem in January and February, and that I was in a mindset of desperation, of high pressure, of anxiety, and I wasn't trading calm, cool, and collected. I was being way too aggressive. I was just, so that's not good. So then the next step is number 2, reduce size, which I did. I set a max limit on my account size in terms of my share size. So I reduced my share size, and then I also started scaling with a warm up, warm, and then cool down kind of sizing regimen, where I would go from 6,000 up to 20,000 and then back down to 6,000 as I started the day and then as I was finishing the day. And I even am doing that still now, a few weeks, today's only 2 weeks later, but I'm still doing that. I'm doing it in, some days I just stop. I don't really cool down. I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I'm happy with that. Other days I really do keep trading, but with smaller size. It depends on what the market's giving us. Today, we weren't really getting as much, so I was like, I'm just gonna call it quits. And yesterday I also just was like, I'm gonna call it quits. But the days before that, I was saying, okay, I'm up this much, guys. I'm gonna reduce my share size for the rest of the day because I don't wanna risk giving back more than half my gains. Because even though I had set it as a rule, if you give back half your gains, stop trading. What I didn't realize was that by the time I've given back half my gains, I'm already emotionally triggered. I'm already emotionally hijacked. I'm already upset. And when I'm upset like that, I actually wrote, I don't know if it was in this book, no, I think it was in the other one, but I actually wrote down on the day where, I don't remember which day it was one of these days in here, I decided to start keeping a emotional kind of measurement journal. And so what I did with that was I basically would write down after each trade how emotionally fueled I felt. If I felt like totally good, I'm feeling okay, or if I was starting to feel frustrated. And on one of those days, I wrote, I just gave back all of my gains. I'm furious. I should stop trading now, but I'm furious. And even though I wrote down I should probably stop trading, I kept trading. And then I lost $30,000. I went from flat on the day to down 30 grand. And I was like, it was right there. You wrote it down. Why'd you keep trading? I was already triggered. So learning this about myself, even this many years into trading, is definitely interesting. But I think that in different periods of time, we become more or less susceptible to emotion in our trading. And perhaps the pressure at the beginning of the year to try to get it off to a really good start increases the pressure for kind of all of us. And I just didn't perform well under that pressure. So I had to bring out some of these tools, hiding the P&L, reducing the size, scaling up, warm, cool down, and the emotional journal to just sort of get myself back to centered. And what ended up happening, and it's kind of a whirlwind because it's surprising, but we ended up having a really, really great week last week. I mean, fantastic. I made $300,000 in 4 days of trading. And then this week here, another absolutely fantastic week. So now I lost $300,000 in the first week of the month, the biggest loss I've ever had. And I made back $700,000 for the biggest recovery I've ever had. And now I'm up about $400,000 in gross profit on the month. And this is probably as good a time as any to put up my disclaimer as a reminder that trading is risky and most traders lose money. And it's not necessarily because the strategy doesn't work. It's because it can so much be because of your mental headspace. So here's the challenge. How do you adopt the headspace of a profitable trader when you're not profitable? How do I get myself into the headspace of a really confident trader when I have no confidence because I just lost 300 grand? Right? That's the challenge. So the fifth thing that I was doing, number 5, was mindfulness meditation. And for me, I found that to be really helpful. I usually meditate when I'm in a red streak, or I'm having kind of I'm just having I'm not doing well. It's something I do to help me kind of get centered, try to get perspective, try to maintain my presence of mind while I'm trading, that I have to walk away now. I have to reduce my share size now. I have to stay focused on the bigger goal. And I kept reminding myself during this period of time that I am still the trader who had this green week, had this green month. Those of you who have traded in the simulator, your simulated trading metrics, that's what they give you. That I'm the trader who for a month in the simulator did this. I'm the trader for 8 weeks in the simulator who did this. Proving to yourself that you do know something. It's a confidence booster. And then saying, the only way for me to recover is to focus on one day at a time. If I try to focus on making back $300,000 in one trade, the odds are I'm going to double the hole that I'm in. I'm not going to be grateful when I'm up 5 grand. I'm going to try to swing it for 20 grand, and then I lose the 5 grand. What I need to do is take that 5 grand off the table every single time I have it. I need to be ruthless and aggressive about just small gains, small gains, small gains. 100 here, 1,000 there, 5,000 there, 6,000 there, 500 there. Just keep taking those small gains as I get them. And so that's what I've done. And what I said to myself as I was beginning the recovery, as you may recall if you were watching some of those videos, and of course I did a recap of the $260,000-$70,000 red day. About 5 minutes after the loss, I began a video, which was my very raw recap of losing that. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link down in the description for you guys to check it out, those on YouTube and Facebook. But so right here, I was like, listen, I'm at 550,000. I don't think that I'm going to start to feel like I'm myself again until I'm back to up probably over like 700,000. I think I need to make back at least half of what I've lost to just try to feel like, the tide is kind of shifting back in my favor. After losing 300,000 in one day, the fact is, I was not the same person as I was a week prior. A week prior to that, before I had the $90,000 loss, I had just had an $900,000 hot streak. I was feeling fantastic. I was on a great hot streak. The market was hot. I was doing really well. And I was like, wow, I'm crushing it. I was very confident. And that confidence perhaps led to overconfidence. When we get overconfident, at least when I get overconfident, and when I'm trading really well, I don't practice the meditation. I don't hide my P&L. I don't reduce my share size. I don't always warm, and then cool down. I don't do all of this stuff. And that's been a little bit of a problem because discipline is a muscle. And if you're not exercising it and practicing it every day, then in the moment when you need it, it's not there for you. And so it has to be something that you really focus on every single day. So doing that meditation, taking the breath. And this week, actually, I felt quite anxious on Monday. I felt anxious because I was like, okay, you've just had a really good 4 days. I'm nervous that's gonna fall apart. I'm nervous that I'm gonna start getting overconfident again. I'm nervous that I'm gonna have another huge loss. And I was like, telling myself, I was like, dude, you are in control of that. You can reduce your share size, trade more conservatively. And so I did trade conservatively for that kind of stretch. I recovered about $75,000, and I was like, all right, I've got to keep this going. So, another few days later, a couple more green days, and boom, I'm crossing back up over 700. And that was last week when I had one day where I made 117,000. So all of a sudden I was like, wow, I on that day I was like, wow, that feels good. Okay. That's what hot momentum is like. That's what it's like. And in that moment I was like, man, if a stock isn't going really, if it isn't really hot, don't trade it. You know what? GameStop is a perfect example today. It's up right now 2% on the day. Could you have traded it all day long? You could have. It's had a huge range. I'm not going to disagree with you, but all things considered, on the daily chart, it's range bound and it's choppy. It's an inside day. It doesn't have news. This doesn't feel like the right stock to trade today. In fact, today, we didn't really have anything that was really, really awesome. Now, yesterday, we did have GameStop in the morning, and I did really well on it. And we had GameStop after hours on Tuesday or Wednesday. And that was fantastic. That's the type of stuff I want to trade when we have stocks moving quickly. Now, that's obviously an extreme example, but that's the type of stuff I want to focus on. And so after that day, I was reminding myself, just focus on those big movers and don't trade the other stuff. You can afford not to trade the other stuff, because when you trade that junky stuff, you just dig yourself a hole and it's just not worth it. And then, so coming into this next week, I was a little bit nervous on Monday. I was like, as soon as you get green, size it down, be very cautious, be very careful. And then on Wednesday, when I got the news that GameStop had surged up right here, this was on Wednesday, my initial feeling was, I was like, God, no. Oh my God. No, not again. I was like, immediately I was anxious. And I felt like the roller coaster is calling me back. And how can I not jump on? But every time I've gotten on that roller coaster of GameStop, the last trade that Monday was $125,000 loss, or whatever it was right here, a $70,000 loss. So I was feeling really nervous about getting back on that GameStop wagon. And I got home and I saw this crazy chart and I was like, oh my God, I felt so much FOMO. And I was like, okay, do I get up at 4 a.m.? And so yesterday I set my alarm for 4 a.m. I woke up at 2:30. I had a headache and my alarm didn't go off. It was 2:30, hadn't gone off yet. I went back to sleep. I then woke up at 4:30. My phone had turned off. So I was like, okay, divine intervention. I wasn't meant to trade at 4. I then slept till 6. I got up. And then I bought, for the break, over $150 here, and we got that squeeze up to 168, which was great. But I was nervous, and on that trade on GameStop, I knew that there was risk on it, and it was one that definitely made me a little bit nervous. And I was like, I could trade it with smaller size, but I also felt like, this is the time to step up. So I said, you know what? Focus on the best quality setups. Good quality setups for your first trade. Get your cushion, get green, and then if you've got a cushion, keep trading. Get in the flow state. And I did. But I'm being very mindful each day when I sit down that I have to be really protective of my emotional state. And I have to really try to avoid having a day like this, because those types of days, I lost $268,000 on that day. To be honest, it probably cost me $500,000. You know why? Because I was emotionally broken for the next week and a half, 2 weeks. and think about all the lost opportunity from being emotionally broken, from having lost my confidence. The lost opportunities are bigger than the actual loss itself. We had that crazy move on SCKT. I totally undercapitalized on that. I should have murdered that stock. I should have been up over $100,000 on it, and I wasn't. This was probably even a cleaner momentum stock than, this was crazy. This thing went from $12 all the way up to 36. But I wasn't in the headspace to really do well. I wasn't centered. I was cautious. I was timid. I was getting in too high. Then I was getting out really quick. So unfortunately, after a big loss, the only thing that can cure it is time. And so during that period of time, as you cool down emotions, you have to be very protective of your emotional state. You have to hide your P&L, perhaps, reduce your share size, practice scaling up into the day and scaling back down, being really protective about the losses and not let yourself go deep into the red, setting a max loss on your account and walking away before you get triggered. It's not easy. It's not fun. Being a trader requires a very high level of perseverance. It requires you to be very resilient. It is going to ask you to get punched in the face and come right back. And that's how I felt about GameStop. I was like, tomorrow. I felt like a kid who on the playground is like, meet me after school at 4:00 at the swing set. And I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be a big fight. What's going to happen? And, it was that pressure and just knowing that it was going to be big, and that's the stress. So you have to be really careful after you have a big loss, and you have to be really protective of yourself to try to prevent that from happening again. And I probably could have traded with smaller size yesterday on GameStop. I think that, I don't know, I maybe was a little too aggressive on it, because if my trades had gone the wrong way, I probably could have easily lost $50,000 yesterday, and that would have been the second, to last day of the month. And then, but you do sometimes have to step up and take some risk. And for me, that was the right move, and it worked. And so now we're at the end of February. I've finished a pretty miraculous recovery, but I'm kind of scared for the new month ahead, because what do the last 2 months tell me? The last 2 months tell me I'm probably going to lose anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 in the next 2 weeks. So, that's kind of a scary feeling as I come into the new month, that I'm coming right back into this same window where I keep screwing up. So, what's the game plan for tomorrow, for Monday? What's the game plan knowing that I'm coming into a period where I seem to have a higher risk of risk? Well, a higher risk of loss. Well, I would say that perhaps I should approach the first week of the new month the same way as I've been approaching the first few trades of the day. Maybe for the first few days in March, I should actually conscientiously reduce my share size, so that if I do go red, which any day has a 30% chance, I think, for me, of being a red day, my P&L, win days versus loss days, I'm green 77% of the days. So, 1 out of every 4 days, roughly, 1 out of every 5 days is a red day. So given that, I should expect that I've got a 1 in 5 chance of being red on Monday, just like any other day. And after a nice green streak like this, it's certainly not impossible. So what if I go in here right now and I reduce my share size? So I reduced my share size when I was recovering from this big loss that I had in the beginning of the month. I capped myself at 50,000 shares after that loss. Now, after the last 2 weeks, I emailed Lightspeed and I said, increase my max share size to, I can't remember if I said to 75,000 shares. I think I said 75,000 shares. Because, hey, I'd had, a few great days and I was like, I'm feeling hot. I don't want to hold myself back. But now as we come to a new month, on the one hand, you could say that who cares? Don't just pretend it's not the beginning of a month. What does it matter? What does 1 month matter? It's March. You've got $1 million cushion on the year now. I'm up over $1 million on the year. Just trade. Just stop thinking about month ends. And while that is true, I think for whatever reason right now, psychologically, I'm having a little bit of a hard time truly embracing that it doesn't matter if I'm green each month. Maybe that's something I need to work on a little bit more. But given the fact that it creates this pressure for me, I'm going to reduce my size to 20,000 shares to start on Monday. I'm going to close that and I'm going to save this. And it's not to say that with 20,000 shares of something like GameStop, I couldn't lose, a lot of money, because I could. But I'm just going to start with it kind of reduced there. And I think that the game plan for Monday is going to try to be to see which is the obvious stock. Do we have something that's obvious? Yesterday was only so-so. Today wasn't that great. So we've had 2 so-so days. So I'm not going to get up at 4 a.m. on Monday. I'm not going to even get up at 7 a.m. to trade early. I'm just going to come in here probably around 8:30, and we'll see what things look like. It's the beginning of the new week. It's the beginning of a new month. These last 2 days were a little choppy. I mean, I know I did well yesterday, but the fact is it was on GameStop, and GameStop closed weak, and nothing else was that strong. So given these last 2 days, we haven't had really good continuation or follow through. I'm thinking that it might be smart to scale down a little bit for a couple days going into the new month. And hey, if I get a cushion right away and I'm green, then that's fine. But if not, then I'll be grateful that at least I'm trading with smaller size. Can always size back up. But I think that's the approach right now. And I think continuing over the weekend and definitely in the morning, Monday morning, doing my meditation, taking those deep breaths, trying to be calm, cool, collected, trying to approach the market very centered. I will say that my strategy of trading momentum and everything about it, including the biggest ups and the biggest downs, it works. And that's reflected purely in the P&L. But I also think it's possible. So for my small account challenge that I began on January 1st, 2017, let's just go back here. So January 1st, 2017, gross profit, oh, come on. So 1/1/2017. So I started with $583 and I've grown that into 7.7 million gross profit. That's trading momentum. Buy high, sell higher. That is right there a reflection of the momentum strategy. But I also think it's possible. It is possible that you could learn, or that I could trade my momentum strategy and lose money. And not because of any fault in the strategy, but because of a fault or an issue in mindset. Because for whatever reason, it's your birthday and you're bent out of shape, or because you got in an argument, with someone before you started trading and you just were really emotionally fueled. You had a short fuse. For whatever reason, you come into the day and you've got some baggage that you're bringing with you that sets your fuse short, so you don't have as much discipline. And when things start getting tough and you're faced with either having to have the strength to close the day red or just give in to FOMO and keep chasing stuff, you give in to FOMO and you dig yourself a huge hole. And, look, you made a mistake. You took a loss, a huge loss, and you got to own up to that. And it's going to take you time to recover. And it's as simple as that. It's just going to take time. You're not going to make it back all in one day. That's not how it works. You've had a big loss. It's going to take you weeks of discipline to make it back. It took me about 2 weeks to make back that loss. Now, that was a pretty fast recovery. That was a really fast recovery. But, for you, relatively, maybe a $3,000 loss feels just as painful as $300,000 does for me. And it may take you 2 weeks or 3 weeks to make back $3,000. at the rate of a couple hundred a day. And if that's the case, that's what it is. There's no shortcuts. You've got to just rebuild one brick at a time, and you've got to have the discipline to stick with it. And I am a big advocate of trading less. The longer you sit here every single day, decision fatigue sets in. Your ability to maintain composure, to maintain discipline gets smaller and smaller and smaller until finally you break. And then at the end of the day, at 3:30, you do something stupid and give back your entire morning, your entire day. You go from being up on the day to red. So I am right now, because we're teaching, we're doing the winter school program for Warrior Pro students. I've had a pretty tight schedule where I really have to stop trading so we can start class. And that's been good. That's been good for me. It's prevented me from doing some of the afternoon trading that I might have done otherwise. But in any case, figure out what you need to get yourself out of the office. And actually what I did today is I said, I filled up my cup with green tea and I said, I'm not going to start drinking this until I'm done trading. This is going to be a reward for when I'm finished trading. Because you know what? Right now, I don't feel like I need the extra caffeine. I'm already a little bit kind of anxious. I'm already kind of, ready to go. And I don't need to be jumping at stuff. I need to be calm and cool. And then as a reward for having a good morning, I'll have the green tea. And that's what I did. And so once I started having the caffeine, I was like, I'm done trading. Now, caffeine can certainly at times, I suppose, be a performance enhancer for trading. If you're, if the market's really hot and you need to really be in the zone, there's nothing wrong with caffeine. But this was just a particular day where I was like, you know what? I don't need that right now. This is Friday. I need to kind of slow down and unwind. And I'm probably going to do the same thing on Monday. So I hope this has been helpful for you. This has been a little bit of a long video, but from down on the month, $300,000 at my worst to up in $400,000, and this is in gross profit. So my broker statements will get posted to the website. Those will show my my net profit, which will be inclusive of fees and commissions. So it'll be less than that for sure. But in any case, it's been a great month, and I sit right now on, it's been a great month if you only look at the last 2 weeks, but it's been an interesting month and it's been an interesting year, and I'm up 1.2 million on the year in gross profit right now. So I'm off to a great start this year. If I kept this up, 600,000 a month, that's a $7 million year. I'm not going to set 7 million as my goal. I don't think that that's realistic. I think that I should expect that I will have a red month at some point this year. I hope that I can keep it to less than 50,000, but I would expect to have a red month at some point. I would also expect that there could be a period of time where we don't have as much hot momentum. And I'm thinking it might be during this summer, because I'm concerned that people are going to start traveling a lot and not wanting to be in front of the computer as much after maybe they have a vaccine and stuff like that. But in any case, I'm going to try to make the most of the market that's right in front of us, and I hope you guys study. I encourage you to be really cautious about how you approach this. Most beginner traders lose money. I lost money as a beginner trader, just like probably every other beginner. And so with that in mind, you should approach this with a lot of caution. You should trade in a simulator before you put real money on the line, and you should try to really develop a strategy before you get into the market and start throwing real money at stuff. So you'll develop that strategy through sim trading. But for those that do want to join one of my classes, I'll give you a link right here for my free class. This is a replay of one of my popular workshops that I've hosted. I'll just put this down here in the comments and I'll pin it as well. If you'd like to register, you're welcome to. We host a replay of it, and during that replay, I have a couple members of my support staff that are trained and understand trading and can answer questions for you guys. So, obviously you guys understand that I teach classes. I trade and teach classes. These are the two things that I do, and I really enjoy doing it. Some people will be critical and they'll say, Ross, if you really made $7 million, if you really made $5 million or whatever it is, you wouldn't teach. You wouldn't sell this strategy. You wouldn't give it away, this and that. And I think that is kind of it's an interesting mindset. It, on the one hand, criticizes like every teacher in the world because teaching is something that some people genuinely enjoy doing. If I was a really good guitar player and I made a video series on how to play the guitar, someone would criticize me and say, if you were really so good, you'd be playing with like Aerosmith. And if you were really so good, you'd be on stage. And some people, their calling is being on stage and really doing and performing, and for some it's a combination of both. And I think for me, I created this community because I wanted to surround myself with the type of people that were driven, that really wanted to work to learn these patterns in the market and to improve their own lives. And I was really turned off by some of the stuff out there, certainly on like the message boards. And it's just, some of it is like just so hard to read through the lines of what's legitimate and what's not. And so I created this community. And what I've honestly found is that by teaching, I have become a better trader myself. It really has made me better. If you try to teach someone how to day trade, even if it's your spouse or a friend, I guarantee you it's going to make you realize there's some holes in your own knowledge. They're going to be like, well, can you explain what an options contract is? And you're like, well, an option contract, it's based on it's a derivative. Well, so the thing with an option contract, and then you're like, I got to go back to the book. So it makes you better at what you're doing. For me, just articulating my strategy, documenting it, putting it into this curriculum, has helped me better understand my strategy. It's helped my strategy evolve. And for my students, for those that do become, that are, the lucky few that really learn this and really get it and become successful and become profitable, I've always wanted to give them opportunities to begin giving back. So that's why you see Jess, who's a member of the 100K Club. He gives back quite a bit. John, who's made over $1 million, he gives back to you guys quite a bit. And for everyone that is getting that badge, you're in that direction of being able to start teaching and supporting people who are learning. And the reality is, creating this community, creating the website, building this chat room software, licensing the simulator, all of this, there's costs associated with all of it. And while some people might try to put it in a very low cost system that they could just give away for free, when you take out the things that cost money, the real-time data for the trading simulator or the mentor sessions or whatever it is, then what you're left with is basically a book or a DVD. And if you want to read a handbook on skydiving and then go jump out of a plane, more power to you. But I really think hands-on learning and being able to learn and then practice in controlled and safe environments is a much better way of approaching it. And so there's a cost related to that. Being able to have, for us, a support staff that can answer your questions, I've got to pay their payroll. So, if you want to be a student here, we'd love to have you. If you think it's, not worth it and you'd rather learn, just through teaching yourself and watching videos, that's fine too. You'll get value out of this video on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy it. But I think that it's a longer learning curve when you try to figure everything out for yourself, especially when there's other people that really do know what they're doing and are happy to share with you what works for them. So anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there because invariably I always see people who make that comment. If you were really so good, you would give this away for free, or if you were really so good, you wouldn't be even selling. You're just a salesman. And I really don't think of myself as that. But if that's someone's point of view, it's their right to have that. But anyways, so I hope you guys find value here, both in the YouTube videos, the Facebook videos, and of course for students in the classes and in the curriculum. We've been doing a great job making our way through the winter school program. So We just finished chapter 10 today for Warrior Pro students. So chapter 8 that took us about a week to get through. Chapter 8 is probably going to be about, 20 hours, 15 hours. That's a long chapter, but it's momentum trading. So there's a lot of content in that. Gap and go, momentum, reversal, short selling, high-speed breakout trading. And so this is where we're going to pick back up this coming week, chapter 11. But of course, students that join the curriculum or join the Warrior Pro classes at any time, you can just jump in and start watching the archived replay of the last time I taught the classes live. All right, so I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you for tuning in for what's been a longer video here, but yeah, this was the story of my worst month and then my biggest recovery. Wow. It's really, I didn't see that coming at all. I was totally expecting to finish red. And I was like, if I can just finish down less than 100,000, that would be great. But radical acceptance. I was accepting it. And I said, you know what? The glass is still half full. I will rebuild this account. It's one day at a time, 5,000 a day. Is it going to take me 40, 50 days? Yes, I can do it though. And I did it. So I hope that's inspiring for you guys. We all have setbacks and you got to get back on the horse. All right, that's it for me. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you first thing on Monday morning, live streaming right in the chat room, probably around 8:30.